All right. So we have something for people wanting to freelance, people wanting to sell their service at large, right? And this time we have one of my favorite speakers, my good friend, and his name is Michael Gender. Sometimes when I'm making reels on client relationship and stuff, I go and take my inspiration from what Michael has got to say. Like he's very clear about who's a bad client, who's a good client, and that's some learning, right? That is very important. One of the most important thing, he talks about mental health. He talks about how important it is to really take the right decisions and working with the right clients. So I'm just putting Michael onto the pin, onto the front, and one of the favorite personalities when it comes to freelancing, especially in the space of design. So we're gonna learn a lot from him. All of you in the chat, and go ahead and say welcome, Michael. So, Michael.
Hey, Saurabh.
Hi. Good
How
to
are
see you.
It's so good to see you. It's been a bit since we had a face-to-face, so super excited to be here.
It's been quite some time since I've hosted you. It's my pleasure, and I really feel grateful that you chose to be part of this event today.
Oh man, when you invited me, it was an immediate yes. Whatever you're involved in, I will happily be involved in. I just appreciate and admire you so much.
Thank you, Michael. It's likewise, and there's always so much to learn from you. So Michael largely tells you about invoicing, tells you about how do you bill your clients. There's a lot that we could learn from him. I'm going to shoot some questions for Michael today. And the first question for Michael is, what are some of the red flags in a client relationship? Now, you should learn from him because it's very generic, not specifically to digital marketing. So, Michael, what would you like to say?
Red flags. I have so many. But I jotted down a couple because I think I've had every bad client. I had a lot of great clients, but I had like every bad client experience that you could probably experience while I was running my agency. So let me give you three that I think are really important, big ones, especially for this audience. So number one, the client won't get on a phone call with you or have a meeting with you. They send you an email and they just want a proposal back from you. And you ask for a phone call to discuss their project, and they say, no, we just send us over a proposal. Here's the details. And what that means is that the client's just price shopping. They're probably asking 5 or 10 different people for the same proposal, but they're just looking for the lowest price. So that's the red flag and what it means. And be careful with those clients. Red flag number two is you finally have a conversation about the project and you start to discuss pricing. It might be in your proposal, and they start haggling down your price. And I know that this is common in Indian culture to haggle prices and things because I have a lot of friends in India. But what that means is that the client doesn't see the value in what you're offering. If you're saying, here's how we're going to solve your problem, and then the client starts haggling down the price, they don't have an understanding of what you're really bringing to the table and how it is an investment that will benefit their business. So your job in the sales process is to help them see that value so that by the time you start talking about pricing, they're sitting back and saying, wow, that's a lot. I'm getting a lot for my money, instead of them saying, oh, well, I should pay less for this. Right. So you got to fix your sales process if you consistently have clients haggling down your price. And then I'll give you one final quick one. If the client changes the proposal several times before they approve it, so you submit it, they change the scope, you submit it again, they change the scope again, that is just a recipe for a disaster project. If they change the proposal several times, then they're going to change the project several times while you're in it. I had a client, they did 15 rounds of proposal, and it was a big Hollywood client. So we really wanted to do the work, but they changed the proposal 15 times. And of course, when it got into the project, they were on round 7, 8, 9, 10. Everything just took longer.
Right. So if there's no clarity in the beginning, you're saying that there's going to be no clarity later too. Right?
Absolutely. If they are indecisive in the beginning, they'll be indecisive all the way along.
I totally agree to what you have said because I've seen clients like that, and it sometimes take a long time. I think also one of the red flags is clients who take a very long time to discuss a proposal to close because they just never they want to hire us.
Yeah.
Okay, Michael, freelancing is like a full-fledged business in itself. What are some of the most important systems? Because a lot of time freelancers keep cribbing about they don't know how to drive things or they are just stuck because they don't have systems in place. And I see when I look at your courses and I look at how systematic you are. When I see your post and you say this clause is very important in your contract when you're dealing with a client like that, I understand the amount of precision that you go through in building systems like that. So what are some of the most important systems? Let's say keeping contracts in place or keeping, what do you think is important? So please throw some light there, Michael.
Yeah. Everything should be systemized in business. And you know this, you run a big business.
Right.
And you have to have systems in place to be able to scale your business. And the challenge for a lot of freelancers is that they just run their business with no systems at all. It's all in their brain. So they're just cranking out, the morning comes and they're like, okay, well, what do I have to do today? And every day is without systems, and it inhibits your ability to scale. In fact, you can't grow your business if you don't start becoming systematic. And you look at some of the greatest businesses in all the world. McDonald's is one of the great examples. It's everywhere in the world. I've traveled all over the world, and there's always a McDonald's within 1 mile of wherever I am, everywhere that I've been. And McDonald's is so systematic. It's so systematic that you can hire a brand new person that never worked anywhere today at noon. And by 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock, they're making the entire menu for the McDonald's menu because their business is so systematic. And you, as a freelancer, to all the people listening, you have to start creating systems for your business. It'll simplify your life and it will allow you to scale when you start needing somebody else to work on things. So the place I start for this is just make a task list for every type of project that you do. If you design logos, what is the step-by-step for logos? Well, first you're going to do client research and research their competitors. And then you're going to create mood boards. And then you're going to get approval from the mood boards from your client. And then after approval on the mood boards, you're going to move to concept sketches. And then you're going to get approval from the client on that. You just write this step-by-step process for logo design. You can do the same for buying ads or for designing a website or whatever it might be, but create that systematic process and it'll free up your brain to be creative because your brain won't have to be sitting there thinking, how do I do the production of this thing? It'll be able to let go of that and you'll be able to just use all your creative energy into making the cool thing that you're creating for your client. So that's a good place to start. Another great system that everybody as a freelancer should have in place is just a systematic sales process. And sales to a lot of freelancers happens when there's an emergency. They don't have any more work. But sales needs to be something that you're doing on a systematic process every single day, something that relates to sales. And it can be as easy as just emailing a client that you haven't touched base with for 5 months. Send them an email today. And that can be your sales thing for the day, but do something that relates to sales every single day.
Awesome. So Michael, some great tips there. What are top 3 platforms where freelancers must hang out, generally, according to you?
All right. So I have 3 categories for this. And the first one is your choice. You can choose Instagram, or you can choose Dribbble, or you can choose Behance. You really need, if you're a creative freelancer, you really need to choose one of those 3 platforms and make that your platform where you're sharing your work and sharing information about you. So choose one of those. You don't have to do all of them. Choose one of those. The next one is LinkedIn. That's number 2. You should be on LinkedIn, and you should use LinkedIn to connect with potential clients and potential vendors and partners for you. If you're a web designer, then meet some website programmers, some developers. And you can do that through LinkedIn. And then the third one is choose a group that relates to your target business, your target industry. So if you like to do work for tech startups, then find a Facebook group for tech startups and get active in that group. If you target fitness coaches, then find a fitness coach group on LinkedIn or Facebook or Reddit or somewhere and get active in that platform, because that's going to help position you in the niche that you're trying to find clients.
Awesome. That's amazing. If you guys have been learning a lot, just go to the chat and say LAL. Bring that energy, all of you. Wasn't that some really golden nuggets? Yes? Super.
Thank you.
Yeah, look at the chat. It's buzzing.
Oh, that's so good. That makes me feel so good. Thank you, everybody, for flying the chats in.
Yes. So this is to you, Michael. What are some crucial 3 aspects in a freelancing contract? I think that's a lot of people don't even have contracts in place. They just go by one confirmation. But what are some 3 clauses that you believe is a must have in a contract when you work with the client?
Yeah, I didn't have contracts for the first few years of my agency run. And then I started getting in trouble with clients. There was no contract. There was not enough details. I started to realize, oh my gosh, I'm losing money on this client because I didn't specify this thing in a contract. So I started to refine my contract with every bad experience that I ever had. When I had a client that took advantage of my agency, I thought, oh, what's the contract clause that I need to put in there to protect me from this ever happening again? And my contracts got refined over probably a dozen years before I sold my agency back in 2015. And they were as bulletproof as you're going to find. So I'm going to give you a couple of things that are critical inside of a contract. And these are things that people usually don't put in to their contracts. The first one is you need a detailed list of the rounds and revisions. And it's not just you saying, okay, client, you get 3 rounds of revisions, just generic. You don't do that. You write in round 1. The agency will deliver concept sketches to the client for the logo. And then round 1 feedback. The client will provide feedback on the delivery of the concept sketches. And then round 2, the agency will revise the concept sketches based on client feedback. And then round 2 feedback, the client will approve the revised concept sketches. And then you move into the next round and the next round and the next round, but you detail exactly what's going to happen in every single round. And this protects you from the client assuming that they get to give feedback 17 times on the concept sketches. And then you end up with a project that takes 6 months instead of 3 weeks like it should. So that's the first thing. Rounds and revisions, detail them out, and don't just put a blanket 3 rounds of revisions in this project. No more of that.
Nice.
The second thing that you need to have in is a list of what is not included in the project. And this, you just take the assumptions, like you're designing a website for a client and it has 5 pages. Well, if one of those pages is an infographic and the client thinks that it's an animated infographic, well, that one thing could take your entire budget that you're assuming if you don't think there's an infographic and the client does think there's an infographic for that page. So what you do is you list the included and not included list inside of your contract. And you put on there, no, infographics not included. If you want that, we'll do it as a separate project. No, stock photo purchases not included. If you want stock photos and we have to spend $500 for a Getty image, then
Right.
you have to pay more for that thing. So you list all of the things that are not included. Man, that is a lifesaver in your contract because it gets rid of the assumption problem with your client thinking that something's included and you don't.
Awesome. So bringing more clarity in the contract and go as detailed as you can. That's what you're trying to say, right?
Yeah, absolutely. As detailed as you can.
So any tool that you recommend for SOPs and contracts that people can make use of?
I built my contracts in Adobe InDesign. They were totally custom. I didn't use an online tool. But I know that there are some out there, but nothing out of the box is going to give you the amount of detail that you really need. So in my opinion, it really needs to be customized for and not generic like you'd find inside of some kind of a tool.
Awesome. Okay, there's one last question for you, Michael. What is your biggest learning goal for the next year?
Oh man, I am learning so much. So in 2015, I sold my agency and I had my team. And you have this, Saurav, it's so great when you don't have to know everything.
True.
Like you have great, talented people that know, they have knowledge that you don't have. Well, in my life now, I do business consulting, coaching, and courses and things like that. And I don't have a team of people like I used to. So now I'm back in the old days when I was starting my agency of having to figure out the stuff. And it's been so fun. I mean, I really have loved it. I figured out social media marketing, built my channel on Instagram. I'm working on YouTube right now. And how do I grow my audience on YouTube? That's one of my big goals for 2023. And it's taking a learning curve for me. It's how do I create the right hooks and how do I get the SEO properly in place and where do my content ideas come from and how do I make them searchable inside of YouTube? All that stuff is learning curve for me. So that's a big thing that I'm learning. I also need to learn how to run digital ads effectively.
Awesome.
I've played with just boosting posts on Instagram and stuff, but digging into the back end systems and your audience here and for your business, it's a core of your business. Figuring that out is something that I want to learn. Even if I outsource it, I still want to know the ins and outs of that. So those are two big things that I'm working to learn.
That's a great thing for you guys to know, right? So Michael wants to learn new things, number one. Second, the most important aspect, he believes in building a team and believes in a team who can be much more better than what he believes he's not good at, right? And that's a great quality of a great leader.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being part of the live session, taking your time out and doing this bit with us. It means a lot. So gratitude from the bottom of my heart.